So, sex burns 360 calories per hour. Now, in as much as that sounds like an amazing thing in the name of weight loss, I'm sure most of y'all that don't do shit still expect to burn the same 360. And this is where I'll say I don't believe it because, well, most of y'all barely do shit in the bedroom. And plus, I doubt there's many of you that really go past an hour. But anyways, who am I to start questioning shit? For me, the only question that I can really ask is, I honestly do think that this is one of those facts that I can't entirely believe. Mostly because it doesn't make complete sense. Because normally, nutting is supposed to consume more calories than the actual sexual act itself. And, we've been told that half an hour of good sex, or at least half an hour of sex, is supposed to be the equivalent of an hour and a half of cardio. Or I don't know, that's another fact that I still question. All I know is nutting is supposed to be around 160. I don't know if it's 140 to 160 or 160 to 180 calories that you burn from that shit. And I think that's the only thing that I ever really look forward to. But anyways, if you want to use this for weight loss, by all means, it's probably one of the most fun ways that you can actually do it. Hell, it'll actually keep some of y'all actually working out and actually trying to burn fat and not just eating everything away. But anyways, we have a podcast to start, so let's do this properly. Welcome to Break Time on Westside, your number one break time podcast, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. The man on the mic is a man who wonders why the chicken crossed the road and yet KFC is always on the better side of town. He is a man that is tall, dark, and mildly handsome. It is none other than I, Sir Denver B. The show is Tweetstreet, the weekly show where we take a nice deep dive into Twitter, pull out a couple of tweets here and there, and bring them out to the public. And you know what we do. We discuss them, we break them down, and we mention whether they make sense or they don't. As usual, no tweet is safe. Every tweet can be sent, so you know what it do. You send that tweet to the IG handle at Breaktime on Westside if you feel like the whole idea of taking a screenshot and sending is too much work. If you don't feel like that's too much work, then just take a screenshot and send it to the IG handle at Breaktime on Westside. If you feel like sending it via DMs to Twitter, because it's from Twitter to another Twitter, seems like more your cake, you can also do that. The Twitter handle is at Bagaka the D. And my goodness, before I get into things, I have a bit of a complaint. Now, there's this thing with women that I honestly do not like. There's this thing where women like making stuff look like they're not doing it for guys. They say that they will take pictures and use filters so that it can make them feel good about themselves. Try and bring out the highlights and bring out some of the better things about themselves. They'll say that they won't go and work out for guys. They'll say that they won't try and look good for guys. And let's be completely honest, there is some things that they just need to accept they do for guys. Now, case in point, I was scrolling through Instagram today and I saw this post of someone who had done a shoot for lingerie. And I kid you not, the quote was, "Lingerie is not about seducing men, it's about embracing womanhood. Wear fabulous lingerie because you are the most important person who will see it." And I sit back and I'm like, honestly, the audacity of the bullshit. Because let's be completely honest, lingerie wasn't exactly built for women. And I'm not about to try and get into that whole thing for lesbians and the LGBT people and shit. No, we're looking at this from a straight person's perspective. It was not built for women. It was built so that women could have a sexier look and spice it up in the bedroom. Because it's a pretty good way to show more without having to cover up less. So it made sense. It was a very nice way to take advantage of the idea that if you show more but you don't show everything, you can make a nigga aroused. So this whole idea that people are bringing in about, it's not about you, it's about us. It's okay to admit that it's to seduce us. Hell, we understand the thirst trap when we see it. And we're perfectly okay with it. We don't have a problem. It's all about going in, accepting that you are seducing a guy, accepting that you are engaging in some level of thirst trapping, and allowing us to fall for the trap. We don't mind the thirst trap as long as you don't take us in circles for it. I honestly find this thing where women try to justify shit by saying that they're not doing it for guys to be absolute bullshit. A lot of things that you do for guys that you've originally done for guys, just accept that you're doing it for guys. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Like, we don't think that it's clout chasing or thirst trapping all the time. There are times when you just genuinely like it. Hell, there's a lot of things that we do as guys that is for women. Hell, like, we don't exactly take good Instagram photos, or at least we don't take good photos and post them up on the IG for ourselves or for our boys. Like, there's a certain level of we want to show the shorties what's up that's in there. Hell, even when I was going to work out in the gym, in as much as the primary reason was for me, one of those reasons just happened to be for the shorties, you know? But anyways, I might as well get on with the tweets, otherwise I might end up turning this into an entire episode of its own. Now, on to the first tweet. I think the age of consent should be moved to 22 or 23. Because the way some of you defend a 39-year-old man marrying a 19-year-old because it's legal should be illegal. You cannot drink in some countries till you're 21. Why is it okay to be married at 18? Okay, let me try and explain this in a very nice manner. So, back in the day, people never used to attempt to have sex before marriage, and because they wanted marriage to be a thing, and because people didn't want child marriages to be a thing, they sort of brought the consent age to when someone is considered an adult, which is at the age of 18. Now that makes sense in the olden times, but what about right now? Well, you think about it, when you're at the age of 18, you're most likely joining college or campus. You're most likely moving on with a certain part of your life, and you're able to make decisions for yourself. So it makes sense. So if someone wants to get married and they're above the age of 18, they have their own identification, they've been recognized as an adult, then there shouldn't really be that much of a problem. Is the age difference an issue? Yes, of course it is. Just the same way a 55-year-old going after a 25-year-old is a pretty big age difference. Hell, that's 30 years versus this 39 versus a 19-year-old, which is 20 years. But the thing is, most people never really want to accept that for some people, age is just a number. And we don't mind going for someone that's very much older than us. So, of course, it's going to look like a problem. But to be completely honest, there isn't anything wrong with it. If you think that it should be illegal the way we defend it, then you clearly haven't looked at someone that's multiple years older than you and thought to yourself, you know what? This person looks like a schnack. I'd probably hit. Because for us guys, at least we can accept that there's some situations where that happens. There's a reason why the term MILF exists. There's a reason why the term cougar exists. And it's because we will look at some women that are much older than us and we'll be like, you know what? She's old and all, but she fine as hell and I'd probably still hit. Because we've actually accepted that, you know what? They're actually bangable. So honestly, I see no problem with moving up the age of consent. I see no issue with the age of consent remaining at 18. If you move it up to 22 or 23, then you're pretty much calling anyone that chooses to bang any person above the age of 18 a pedophile, which I think isn't really the case, because at least by that point they should be able to make their own decisions. Anyways, on to the next tweet. Men being silent during sex is so funny to me. Like, what's on your mind, King? Well, that's kind of hard to answer because it varies from guy to guy. But I will tell you this: a lot of guys are silent during sex for a bunch of different reasons. It's pretty much just because they don't feel like being that vulnerable with you. Like, there's this thing where women have been taught that, you know, when you're having sex, you know, have the most fun. But with guys, there's usually that vulnerability issue where for us, we get a little bit self-conscious when it comes to some of the things that we can do in the bedroom. So, you know, take for example, moaning, the groaning. So some of us might choose to be quiet. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there was this time I was chilling with a bunch of my friends. They were all female and they were busy talking about cum faces. And they went into talking about how different guys had very funny and weird cum faces. And I kid you not, I did kind of get self-conscious at that point. So like a bit of a while later, when I was busy talking to a couple of my other friends and they were asking me about cum faces and all, I was like, honestly, I'd probably want to have like the most straight looking cum face ever, just because I just don't want to end up on the funny side of everyone's conversation of what cum faces look like. Because imagine when you're going to holla at a babe and like all her friends know exactly what your cum face looks like. It kind of puts you in a bit of a weird position as a guy, and you know, it kind of does make us self-conscious. So because of just being self-conscious and not wanting to be completely vulnerable, we will sometimes just decide to not say or do anything, or sometimes we will just decide to not really make any noises, and we just, you know, focus on making sure that the actions are at their peak performance, peak levels, if I can call it that. So in a sense, we usually do prefer to keep quiet for that reason. Now, that is the other reason whereby our heads are just in a different place. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there's times when my head is in like 6 different places while I'm doing it. It doesn't mean that I hate the experience or that I don't enjoy it. It's just that sometimes when you're doing something really good, it's very easy to get distracted, because for some reason it's like your mind suddenly opens up. I don't know, I've never really found a way to explain it, but it's sort of just like your mind opens up and you start thinking about all sorts of different things. You'll question certain bits of your life and wonder what the hell's happening. Although I'm not gonna lie, the occasional queef does kind of bring us back to reality and shit. But yeah, I might just edit that bit out. But yeah, it's not like we don't really want to make sounds. Sometimes we want to, it's just that we can't, because we just don't feel like being vulnerable, and other times we just have too much on our minds. Anyways, on to the next tweet. I know it's awkward being quiet, but I feel even more awkward talking. Doesn't help either that I have a lisp. Have you tried sexually saying, "Princess, beg for my spit in your mouth"? It's not sexy. Well, firstly, even that statement in itself is not sexy. Like, alright, let me just try for a second saying this statement in the sexiest way I probably can. Princess, beg for my spit in your mouth. Honestly, I'm even trying to think through saying this, and it's hard. Princess, beg for my spit in your mouth. I don't even think this even qualifies as sexy, the statement in itself. Now let me try doing that with a lisp. Princess, beg for my spit in your mouth. Yeah, it doesn't work. Like, this shit is hard. I honestly do feel sorry for people with lisps though. Yes, with lisps. And it's mostly because I've always tried thinking of them like dirty talking, and it just seems hard, because imagine a shorty saying that she's gonna suck you and she has a lisp, and she'll be like, "Oh yeah, baby, I'm gonna suck that dick of yours, and you're not gonna imagine what the hell it is that I've been doing for you." Like, that's just as random a statement as this princess beg for my spit thing. But that shit does not sound romantic at all. Hell, like, for most people, the minute they just hear "suck your dick" or "suck my dick," they pretty much get aroused. But if you listen to someone with a lisp trying to say it, it doesn't exactly sound sexy. I'll probably end up laughing. And the worst bit is, if you are the type of person to give me this kind of thing with a lisp, even on text when you write it, I'll read it in my head with that lisp on. So I'll even laugh a little bit more. So I don't know, like, people with lisps have it hard though. But anyways, let me not make fun of them anymore. We have one last tweet to deal with. So on to the last tweet. I like 50-50 in a relationship. He buys the movie tickets, I buy my outfit. He buys the flight tickets or hotel, I buy a neck pillow for the flight. He buys the house, I buy the new home celebration cake. It's maturity in a relationship. Well, not exactly. This isn't even 50-50. Like, you're just buying all the shit that probably complements it. If it's 50-50, I'd say I buy the movie tickets, you handle all the snacks. And by all, I mean all of them. I like to eat a lot. If you buy the flight tickets, well, I'm buying my flight ticket, you're buying your flight ticket. Or I'll pay for the flight tickets, you pay for the hotel. Like that way it sounds like, it's a little bit more of a split. He buys the house, well, you're probably gonna help with the mortgage payments. Or, you're gonna handle the bills for like a year. Like, I think a lot of people like the idea of making the same and more money than a lot of guys. Like, it's an idea that a lot of women usually like. They like the idea of making a shit ton of money, but you introduce them to the idea of responsibilities and bills and gifting, and then all of a sudden it suddenly becomes a problem. I'm not saying that this happens for every woman, but a lot of women, in as much as they're still on this whole run of, oh, we need to earn more, we need better pay and shit, they don't like paying for shit, but apparently they still want to make more than guys. It never makes sense for me, because honestly, like, if you want to go 50-50 in a relationship, start by going Dutch when you guys go out to eat. Or if you even feel like that's a little bit too much, handle the bill the first time, let him handle the bill the next time, or even vice versa. It'll introduce you to the concept of going 50-50, and trust me, once you start doing that shit and your man gets comfortable, the both of you might never really go back. But ideally, I find the idea of just going 50-50 in a relationship to be an amazing thing, especially for our generation and our time. Women make just as much, if not more, than men, and there's a lot more situations where women expect men to pay for shit that the both of y'all should be paying for. So in a sense, if most of y'all women would just, start handling a couple of bills here and there and stopped complaining, or at least expecting guys to handle most of the bills, I think our world would be a little bit better, and some of y'all would be appreciated a little bit more. I know it sounds like a lot, but just start baby steps. Handle the food bill and shit. Then you can move up to gassing up the car, paying the Uber. Sometimes you can even move it up to making sure you actually buy him a substantial gift for his birthday, and not just socks or a tie. There's a lot that you can do that can show that you're really taking up responsibility in the relationship. And then you can probably move from this whole 90-10 split when it comes to money in the relationship all the way to at least a 60-40 and hopefully a 50-50. But anyways, in as much as I do want that to happen, I do realize that it is a bit of a pipe dream to expect every woman to actually handle the bills. But it's perfectly okay. We shall continue to dream on and hope that you all actually start handling bills. But anyways, that's been it. I want to know your thoughts on this. Do you think that women should start handling more of these bills, or are you just comfortable as a guy paying these bills? The Twitter handle to hit us up on is @Bagaka the D. The B and the D are capital. On Instagram, it is @BreakTime on Westside. Slide into the DMs, drop some ideas here and there if you want us to talk about shit. If you have a certain tweet you want us to look into, that's also where you send it to. And on Facebook, if you want to leave your thoughts and comments and feedback, it is @BreakTime on Westside. I will catch you guys on the next break. Take care.